I literally just read a part in the third book where something horrific is happening and somebody mentions like silk ties and a whip, and Phaedra gets turned on, and the character's like, even now, Phaedra? And she's like, yeah. And it's like,
it is really funny.
It is so funny.
And relatable.
And
oh, no, I mean, no, I don't know. I don't get it.
That never happens. And I've never been turned on in inappropriate moments. What are you talking about? Hello and welcome, guys, to another episode of your favorite podcast, Unresolved Textual Tension. Today, I am once again joined by one of my handsome bitches, William, and our fantastic guest co-host, Mr. Sapphire, Gina. And today we are reading, and I don't have any of my prompts with me now, but in a minute, today we are reading Kushiel's Chosen, which is the second book in the first of the Kushiel
It's the second book of the main trilogy.
Yeah, there's Phaedra's trilogy, and then there's Imriel's trilogy, and then there's some Nama trilogy. But anyway, this is the second book in Phaedra's trilogy. We're going to be talking about it today. So to start off with, guys, how do we feel about this book?
I really liked it. I was really compelled while I was reading it. It's weird because I'm probably going to talk about the bits that didn't work for me more than the things that did, because those are mostly followed on from the first book. But don't get me wrong, I would just want to foreground that, yeah, I really liked this book. I still think Jacqueline Carey writes really amazingly. There's some really fun and interesting and intense sequences in the book, and I still just adore it.
And Gina, this is your second read?
Of this book? Yeah, it's the second.
So how did this strike you? Was there any difference between the first and second read for you? Basically the same?
Yeah, I actually could understand and remember all the political plot things this time. Because the first time it's like names. I don't know who any of these people are. Like, oh, it's resolved. Okay, good. But this time I actually remember who was doing what.
And how do you feel about this book compared to the first book?
I think that this book was actually a bit better written, but I liked it less.
I agree that I think there are things that work better in the first book. And for me, nothing really tops that middle third that you don't like in the first book, in this book, except for the last third. I really like the last chunk of this book because I think the entire breaking into that temple and Aishirot's temple and like taking her, I love that entire sequence.
The second third of this book is actually the best part, which is Pirate Kazan.
I love Pirate Kazan. I wouldn't argue it's my favorite. I like the last third for me.
Yeah, but you're more political everything.
But I also, like, you got the like reunion with Jocelyn in the last third, the hatching the plan, that awesome like duel with the two castle. Like, there's so many in
But the second third, you get all of the Phaedra's a badass on her own because she's a badass because she's Phaedra.
Oh, no, I love the second third. Like, the difference in my love for those two thirds.
I love the second third too much, guys.
It's fine. We'll talk about why we like it, and you can talk about why you don't.
I think sometimes the way I think about it is that each of the books is... We've talked right about how they're broken into thirds, and so sometimes I rate them almost like the thirds are independent. So at the top is like... It's not called Scadia. What's it called?
Scaldia.
That's not going to be topped. And then the last third here, I think, and then the first third, and then and then down from that. I actually really enjoyed the first third of this book, and I feel like it's a much cleaner written than the first third
it's so much cleaner, and for me, so much more enjoyable. And there was, and we'll talk about this when I was getting ready to film the first video with Gina, where like neither of us were rereading the books. We were just gonna do all three at once from pure memory. I read two of the writers on tour did a reread of this, and they did a really nice comprehensive like plot breakdown, and they broke the books up into thirds as well, and they really didn't love the first third of this, and I'm like, nah, it was pretty good, and I enjoyed it even more the second time around. I do think I like this book overall a bit more than the first book, but there are ways in which I think the first one does things better, and we'll talk about that.
I think it's an interesting thing sometimes with series where once you become a fan, you start thinking of the books more as independent elements than one book as a whole. And I found myself doing that with this, even though this is my first time reading it. So, like the parts with the dressmaker, I really loved her as a character. So, like, that is valuable to me in its own right. It's been the first time in a while, guys, but take a drink because I'm talking about A Song of Ice and Fire. You know, you stop seeing those
Where's
books.
my tea?
You stop seeing those books as like independent story arcs, and you start just looking at the specific story arcs within them and even just following certain viewpoints in them. And so it's one of these things that, like, your experience rereading a book, and you guys can speak to this more, but your experience reading a book the first time and your experience rereading it are different, and the things that bother you less. I'm always reminded of Spinning Silver, which, like, I talked with Maria at the time. I said, like, a lot of the pacing issues are bothering me, but when I think back to this book, I'm gonna just think about the things that I enjoyed and not my experiences in the moment. And that actually has happened. I do remember that book really fondly and I really like it, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to reread it, except for Stepan.
Poor Stepan. He gets such a bad rap.
I hate him so much.
I know. So yeah, there's, I think, a lot of good things in this book. There's things to talk about, like, that could have been, like, I'm going to make an argument for how Jacqueline Carey writes a good romance, and then I'm also going to make an argument that actually Will is going to make it, and I'm going to agree with him about how the resolution to the...
That's really her job here at the podcast. She sometimes goes off script by having her own opinions, but really she's here to reinforce mine.
Or, you know, when he steals mine and passes them off as his own.
Opinions.
Which is something...
In real time. One thing I will say that's interesting is that you start to notice in this one repeating elements of Jacqueline Carey as a writer, because that just happens. Because in the first book, you don't notice them as specific stylistic things with her, because you just think they're things with that book. And then you start to, like, notice them a little bit more as it's now a series, and you can see. And I'm sure if I read another book of hers in a different world, I would notice even more of them, because that's happened with writers that I like. But let's go ahead and jump into the plot. So what's the first third of this book called, Maria?
First third of this book was not very creatively titled, and I'm pretty good because I do put it as mainly the first half. We're going to talk about this book in thirds. This particular book has 3 distinct sections, but they're not perfect thirds. Like, this first third is about half of the book, and it literally just says in Terdange and then in La Serenissima, because apparently on this one I was a little less creative. The beginning is like, and it picks up, and this is my first thing that I'm going to say Jacqueline Carey missed an opportunity with. She put the beginning of this book in the end of the last book, because we're starting with, like, what would have worked way better, I think, for the romantic themes we're going to be exploring, because, like, a huge core, and we mentioned this at the end of the last book, is she gets a delivery, and it's her Sangwa Anguisette cloak. And it's basically Melisande being like, I'm back, bitches. Come find me. And she's like, God damn it, I gotta get back in the game, which is literally like, she's gotta get back to Nama's service and go back to the city of Elua and start doing some sexy investigating. And Jocelyn's like, God damn it, we were together. I loved you. Why are you breaking my heart? And that happens at the end of the last book, but it is the beginning of this book. It is the thing that literally sets the plot off in this book. So it's really weird when you start this book that, like, it's literally the two of them traveling to the city of Elua being, like, angry with each other, like well, not angry, but, like, Jocelyn's upset he's done a vigil in front of, like, Elua's...
Yeah, I was wondering how that would read if you hadn't read the first book directly beforehand, which I had. So, like, it was only like a week or two later. So I was like, okay, this works for me, but I'm not sure how much it would work for others. It's sort of the reverse problem of what they have in The Lord of the Rings in the movies, where, like, Boromir dies at the beginning of the Two Towers, whereas that emotional resolution really should happen at the end of Fellowship. And in the movies, they switch it over to be to work a little bit better.
That is inherently the issue, where, like, this event was just misplaced, and you feel it. And I felt it way more because I didn't immediately jump into this book from...
Every time.
One moment, guys. When I read it the first time, I back-to-back these. Like, I literally finished the first one and immediately started the second one, like, within, like, the same car ride. So I didn't notice it. But on this time, I had about, like, 2 weeks between them because I had to read whatever the thing was we were recording after this. I don't remember.
Cyborg Tinkerer.
Ah, yes!
That literary masterpiece. Guys, check out the link up here in the upper right, or over there, where there's going to be a card. Check it out. Maria really loved that book.
If you want to watch me suffer. But anyway, and so I noticed so much more that, like, the tone just doesn't work at the start of this book because we're missing the inciting incident. And it's not like, it's because you're right, at the, like, what's-his-face's death should have come at the end of the one book because it's a dramatic event that, like, has emotional...
Well, and it resolves the arc, the plot.
Exactly.
So the arc here is starting halfway through.
And it's just, it was one of the decisions that I was like, nah, this wasn't it. And, like, I think that's where you can tell that Carey maybe was, like, in the early writing of her, because, like, nothing like that happens in the second series, like the second trilogy. All of the books are self-contained. They begin and end within their own stories. And so I think this was just like a learning curve.
In general, I feel like this one too, I mean, outside of that issue, was much more polished than the first one. I always felt like the first third in the first one is very disorganized. And again, I enjoyed it more than Maria. And there's kind of an energy to when a writer is just writing whatever they want, but it was disorganized. And this one is much more organized except for this element.
And so basically they go back to the city of Elua, and she's like,
wait. First though, Jocelyn is like so extra. It's kind of adorable. He's like, all right, I gotta think on this for a day. And he's just sitting and looking at the statue, and everybody else in her household is like, what's he doing?
Like, does he need
He's literally outside all day, just like staring.
And isn't it raining? Like, it's real dramatic. Like, Jocelyn's like, I must go and do Kushiel's vigil
funny.
Before the statue of Elua to like come to terms with what I must do. I am Kushiel's servant. I protect and serve. And like
the house staff is just like looking out the window and like looking at Phaedra like, should we like do something here?
She's like, nah. And it's funny because Phaedra, like, she feels bad, but she's like, bitch gotta do what bitch gotta do. And she's like, he's coming to terms with it's
He'll
fine.
handle it. We should say her household has 3 chevaliers with them that were sailors from the previous book that now serve her, and they're really fun. There's I forget their names, but
Philippe, Fortune, and Remy.
they're really fun characters.
They're so
and like
fun.
They really love Phaedra, which is like a nice thing, and they're gonna help her with her sleuthing through getting drunk with other guards.
It's so great.
Nothing tragic will happen.
This is still in the first third, so it's like relevant here, but they just get so mad on Phaedra's behalf at everything Jocelyn does. They're just like, Jocelyn, what the fuck? Like, I'll date her if you don't want her. Like, come on, what are you doing?
It's so great. And they're fantastic, and they're really, because they were interested, they were characters that had like a spark of personality at the end of the first book. And like they literally created they were called Phaedra's boys in their own little like branch of the military, and they sang bawdy songs about like, whip us, hit us, we don't care. Like, and Phaedra was like, this is so embarrassing, but I love it. And so these 3 asked her to be part of, like, they wanted to continue on, like, with her. They were really inspired, and they're fantastic. But anyway, they have to pack up. They leave Montreve. They head to the city of Elua. She's immediately like, sexy spyings. She comes back, and she's like, I'm rededicating myself to Nama and taking offers. And while she's there, I don't want to spend too much time. I find, like Will said, this is a way better first third, despite doing very similar things to the first third in the first book. It just works. Number one, we don't have the like time jumpy skippy Ds.
We know all the names now, so we get like ideas of the factions.
And if you get a new name, it's like 1 or 2 new names and not like a bajillion. One of the things that's happening when she comes to court is there's this Serenissimo guy, Severio Stregazza, and he's a quarter Dongeline, and he's real fucking mad about it. Like, he's just a grumpy boy. They meet at a party. They do a...
We should say that La Serenissima is the Italy analog.
Specifically, because Catechete Unitas is Italy, and La Serenissima is
Venice. And then Tiberium, which isn't in this book, is like Rome, specifically.
When she first comes back, she has to get a house. They get a house, and then she's like, it's going to be like the winter, not the winter, the big fate where like there's the Winter King, and then the sun princess or prince, and then like she
I
turns
think they
into
just call
spring.
it The Longest Night.
Yes, The Longest Night. Thank you, Gina. That was exactly what I was looking for. But there's always like a big party for The Longest Night, and she got invited to the queens. And the only other time she's been has been when she was young, and then that time where she went with Melisande in the see-through diamond dress.
Good times.
And she's like, "This is going to be my debut to society. I'm going to whet people's appetites for my presence." The reason I mention this is because when she goes back to the city, she's recommended a dressmaker. And we have to talk, this dressmaker isn't like important to the plot, but she's a great character. And I think this is this is one of the moments where Jacqueline Carey is a good writer, because she imbues this character with so much like life and like a tale with a scene, and it just continues every time this character.
And also, the character doesn't really like Phaedra that much, which makes everything feel like a little bit more real and like an independent person.
Well, and the character does like show like Phaedra's like character herself because of what she does, like when she gets some of the money back.
This character is named Favriel No Eglantine. She is an adept of Eglantine House, but she is flawed. She split her lip when she was young, so she couldn't ever become like a servant of Nama in that sense. So she just makes dresses, and it's going to take forever. The idea is because she has to make all the costumes and stuff for Eglantine House, which she doesn't make money on, and then any commissions she makes, the Eglantine House gets the money, and that's how she pays back her mark, and her mark's pretty big. And Phaedra goes, and she's like, "I'd like some outfits for the longest night," and she's like, "Bitch, you come in here. It's like in a week, I've got like 4 different people wanting costumes, and you think you can just ask me for something for the like fuck you." And Phaedra's like, it's the first person who just genuinely dislikes Phaedra and never likes Phaedra. Like, eventually they reach like a tacit sort of peace, but it's not friendly.
Business agreement, essentially, like mutual aid.
And Phaedra sees in her, like, because a huge thing for Phaedra was when she first was part of the Night Court, they called her imperfect because of the mote in her eye, because Sirius House apparently didn't know what the fuck Kushiel's dart was, with their quest for perfection. And so she sees a part of like what her life could have been had it not been for Delany noting that was actually an important thing in Favriel, despite her being a rude ass bitch. And I liked it because I like people being a rude ass bitch to Phaedra. It's fun. She's great.
She was like one of my favorite characters. Again, she's not super relevant to the plot, but she was a lot of fun.
But she makes Phaedra a really cool dress based on this woman who is Nama's child from when she slept with a murderer and thought to be Kushiel's first chosen. And so she goes in like a really simple black outfit. She asked Jocelyn to go, and he's like, "No, you're literally doing this to debut yourself so people want to fuck you. I'll pass. I'm gonna do Eloah's Vigil. Okay, thanks."
What's really happening with Jocelyn mostly throughout this part is that he and Phaedra are just drifting apart because he just does not like her being into this stuff and having sex with other people. And, he's still kind of dealing with, though I would have liked it if they'd gone into it a little bit more, having broken a lot of Cassiel's vows as a Castellan. And so he is hanging out a lot in the Hybiru quarter. The Hybirus are actually really fascinating because the best way to explain them is as Christian Jews.
The Yeshuites.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Hebrew
they speak Habiru.
Right, Yeshuites. This is, if I can go on a tangent for a minute, I once watched a video series by a guy who wrote a book or whatever, but it's about early Christianities and the ones that died out and didn't become dominant. And one of the things that really he talks about is how Jesus was not trying to found a new religion. He was trying to reform an old one. And so I feel like the Yeshuites are almost the application of that, or what that would look like, in that they're treated exactly like Jews were treated in the Middle Ages. They're their own little...
a separate community, no homeland.
The narrator does a great voice for them, which is really funny, and just like, it's just she's so good at with accents throughout this entire book. It's just really impressive.
And Flossnick is excellent narrator.
Yeah, no, incredible. But so there's all of that, but they believe in the I forget what it's called, the prophet
Yeshua ben Yosef. Yeshua ben Yosef.
Yeah.
And that's how you know he's literally the Jesus analog, because he's Yeshua, son of Joseph.
The Castellines and the Yeshuites have always had like a little bit close of a relationship because they call him the apostate because they still kind of believe in the same stuff, and the Castellines aren't into all the like sexy times stuff. And so he's been hanging out in the Yeshuite quarter and kind of getting a little bit closer to them. And they have a prophecy of a land that they're going to be given, and they're going to be given it by a man who like has stars in his hands, I think is what it's called.
Who like hands flash like stars.
And they're all thinking that it's Jocelyn. And so he's being kind of courted into like, this is the path my life should take.
One of the things that they do this with, and how he gets involved with the Yeshuite quarter is Phaedra's still trying to solve the great mystery of how to get her good friend Hyacinth out of being master of the Straits and stuck on an island forever and ever and ever. She thinks the key to that because the god who like cursed the original master of the Straits and his son was the god of the Yeshuites and his angel Rahab. That whole thing. So she thinks the answer is to look into that. So she starts on her own. Like there's a little in Montreva Scholar that she starts talking to. But anyway, when they get to the city, she's like, yo, Jocelyn, go see if you can find someone to help me learn more. And he ends up, the Rebbe in the city of Elua is fantastic. I love him as a character. He fucks with her a little bit and it's great.
Again, it's one of the ways that the world feels very real and not everything revolving around Phaedra.
She does great with cultures. Like really, like they don't feel like a caricature. There is a feel to them. She writes a schism into like the religion and what's happening with it, and it's all done very well.
I noticed this especially later too. The way she writes cultures is just fascinating because it feels like such a glacier that you're only getting a glimpse of such a culturally rich, deep, real place. And I think she's able to, because I've been thinking like in terms of how do I apply that to my own writing, and I think part of the trick is that it's an alternate history, so your brain automatically thinks like, oh, there's all this normal real cultural stuff going on instead of this just being like a Middle East analog or a Balkan analog.
As she starts studying with the Rebbe, Jocelyn starts hanging out with people and they start trying to woo him with the, well, you know, any sins you feel you may have committed, our God will absolve you of all. We can, and he's feeling, now that Phaedra has returned back to the service of Nama, he's really feeling his feels, like Will said, about the vows. He broke the ways in which he like disregarded the Castleline teachings, and so he's vulnerable, and he's in a position where the comfort of a nice, cozy, forgiving religion sounds real good.
With a pretty Jewish girl making eyes at him. Though hilariously, he doesn't really realize it too much.
He doesn't, because Jocelyn is best boy, but Jocelyn is dumb boy.
It's also hilarious throughout the book how much Phaedra talks about how pretty he is. He'll just be doing something unrelated and she'd be like, and he was so beautiful. And it's just really funny.
How does she describe his corn wheat hair? So she goes to the fete, and at that, again, Jocelyn decides he's going to go do Eloa's vigil by himself. So she takes Fortune with her, who is one of her chevaliers. He's great. I love him. He goes with her. He gets all like nice, like Fabriel makes him a nice outfit. At the fete, that's where she meets Severio Strigazza. And he is angry and rude. And Phaedra's like, fuck you, I don't like you. But then there's this moment where he like kind of grabs her, and there's that moment where she's like, oh fuck, this is a patron. Like he grabs her, she got turned on, they saw it in each other's eyes, and she was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna be hearing about this later. And she does. The other character we're introduced to at this fete, who has like to the overall story no major plot, but is eventually comes back sort of in the second trilogy, is this guy named Marmian Sharazzai. He is one of Melisandre's cousins, and he is one of the people who betrayed her into the justice system, like when she'd done all the bad.
And if you remember, Sharazzai is the house of Melisandre, so there's a certain amount of like, oh, is he in on it? It should be stated that throughout this whole thing, basically, and the Chevaliers are helping Phaedra figure out. They're trying to figure out which of the guards let Melisandre out of the prison and helped her escape back at the end of the first book, and so that's what they're trying to kind of figure out.
How did she escape? And Phaedra immediately sees Marmion and was like, maybe that guy helped her. But she's also suspicious of the Duke Longuevert, despite saving her life at the end of the last book and being incredibly loyal to his sister or his niece. But he's been shifting the past, so she questions him as well. He would have had the opportunity to do it. So at this party, she's also like listening, talking to people, being like super spy.
Sexy spying.
Sexy spying. But then after this, literally all the offers come pouring in, just like offer, offer, offer. And then the one that knocks them all out, 50,000 gold is Saverio Stregazza. And it is literally, you find out later, the money his dad sent him with which to bribe and ingratiate himself into Donjolene society. And he was like, no, fuck it, I'm spending it all on a night with Fendra.
My penis is lonely.
And I want to hit someone that looks pretty. His grandfather, who is Benedict de la Coselle, married his grandmother, but he got, like, Benedict got sold off to La Serenissima in a political marriage, and he's not really fond of his Serenissiman family, and so Saverio's always felt belittled by his grandfather, and now he came to the land of his grandfather, and everyone's so fucking gorgeous, and in comparison, he looks a little, like, rough, and he's just mad at everyone, and so then he, like, of course Phaedra takes the assignation. Number one, she owes her benefactor money that she needed to pay Favriel a dress with. So she does it. And they're like, what are you going to do with... Because he sends like half of it initially. And she's like, I know what I'm doing with this money. And she basically goes and she pays Favriel Noeglantine's mark off. And Favriel is super pissed. Like, I didn't ask you to do this. I don't fucking want to owe you everything. And she's like, fine, bitch. Make your life. Get your life together. You can't say... Because Favriel made a point about Phaedra having... opportunity, and she's like, this is your opportunity, bitch. Now you can't talk shit about me. But anyway, she has the thing with Saverio, realizes Saverio has really no basic, like nothing really interesting to add to her spying. They have a good time. He takes out his whippy frustrations on her.
I thought that scene was hilarious, where he's like the Tiberian monarch, and she's the Donjolene, and he's like, and like they do this whole little role play thing. He is an interesting character because it goes to somewhat of the sex positiveness of the books, in that he's never quite understood or been comfortable with his interest in kink and BDSM, and that's, I think, a feeling a lot of people who are into that have had at some point or all of their lives or have struggled with.
Especially when you don't know anyone else who also likes those things.
Exactly. And so for him, having this moment with Phaedra, this interaction, made him be a lot more at peace with it. And especially the way that Phaedra is accepting of it. So he feels like, okay, this is a normalized thing. This is okay. And he's like, yeah, I spent all my dad's money. And she's like, actually, that is the best thing you could have done, because in Dengelin society, that makes you like a big head.
You're a badass. You're
a badass because you got the really pretty courtesan with high status.
You got her first assignation when she came back. Like, you threw your dick on the table, buddy, and it was big. She ends up getting an assignation with this lady named Nicola Longuevert y Aragon. She's been married into one of the Aragonian houses.
She's one of my other favorite characters.
She's great.
You just like every woman who's not Phaedra.
I like Phaedra.
No, I know, but like you also like every other woman in this series.
That's not true. There's a ugly one at some point I'm sure I don't like.
He likes
I like bitchy, sassy women.
He likes bitchy women.
Then also,
and all of these women. Melisande, bitchy. Nicola, bitchy. Favriel, bitchy. And basically, she kind of becomes friends with Nicola, and Nicola's like, listen, stop suspecting my cousin. Because, like, the Duke Longuevert is her cousin. And she's like, stop it. You guys are both trying to find... He suspects you're the traitor. You suspect he's the traitor. Both of y'all are idiots. And Phaedra's like, nope, I still suspect him. And so Nicola does this thing where she's like, listen, I'm going to give you something. And I need you to, like... You won't trust him, and I need you to fucking trust me for, like, half a second. And Phaedra doesn't fully... And basically, she tells her... There's this thing that in the House Longuevert, if you say by the burning river, it's a house's like secret code words. If you say that, anyone in the House Longuevert has to help or listen. Like, it's just a thing. And I'm giving this to you in the hopes that one day you will understand that I'm trusting you with this information. Please stop hating each other. You're on the same side. And Phaedra is still super suspicious. And basically you find out that Marmian Sharazzai was indeed not helping Melisande. He actually accidentally killed his sister who did help Melisande. He suspected she helped Melisande. And Phaedra kind of puts together that like Persia Sharazzai was the person who helped Melisande, and their idea that they come up with is that when they thought Persia was leaving Melisandre's cell, it was actually Melisande in Persia's cloak, but they can't figure out who went in with her and who escorted her out, because somebody escorted her out and they can't get a story. So she's like, we need to find out who it is. But eventually she realizes she has these dreams and she's been avoiding it, but she starts having bad dreams. And in her dreams, it's basically go to La Serenissima. You know where she is. You're trying to, that's where you have to go. You don't want to go, but fucking go. And so she decodes her dreams and she's like, fuck it, we've got to go. And she tells Asandra, and Assandra's like, nah, I think you're out of your mind. Why would she have just told you where she was? Like, that makes no sense. And Fetcher's like, I don't know. I got a gut feeling. I gotta follow it. So they decide they're going to La Serenissima. Before they go to the coastal city where they're going to go, they get a lead about where some of the soldiers who had been at the battle / encampment where Melisande escaped, the ones who had been stationed there at Toilemont, had gone and decided to work with the Unforgiven in whatever that region is. So Phaedra's like, because the guys are like, her chevaliers are like, we're going to Marseilles. I'm so excited. Gonna do some bets and sleep with some people and have a good time. And she's like, nope, we're actually going in the opposite direction to a mountain village very quickly. We have to camp, guys. And they're like, this is not what we signed up for. But anyway, she drags all of them up the mountains into Sioval. That's where it is, into Sioval. They get there, and basically the captain of the Unforgiven is like, yeah, we had some people here, but they ended up getting stationed elsewhere. Some of them ended up in La Serenissima in the little court. And Phaedra's like, oh, the plot, she doth indeed thicken.
The little court, by the way, is the court that is one of the Dongelin nobles keeps in La Serenissima. He is like a claimant to the throne, if I'm remembering. I don't remember his exact relationship.
He is Isandra, the queen's uncle. It was his brother, the previous king, Ganelon de la Coselle, who married him off to strengthen ties with La Serenissima. Benedict never loved that. He was never quite here for that. So he created in La Serenissima a little Dongelin oasis called the Little Court, where everything in it is like not La Serenissima. So these soldiers had been sent there, and so she's like, perfect, we know where we have to go. Step one. And everybody, including her chevaliers and Jocelyn, are like, Phaedra, this is a wild ass fucking goose chase. You are going off of a dream and a hunch, my guy. And she's like, we're doing this. So they go to La Serenissima. When they get there, Saverio Strigazza visits her and decides he's going to try and marry her. They can't get into the little court initially, so they meet Saverio's parents, Marco Strigazza, and his mom is the one who's half Dongelin, half La Serenissima.
Basically, the political situation is just that the old Doge, which is the guy in charge, he's getting really old, and he has 2 sons, one of which is gay, and like they're trying, or bi, I think, whichever.
Gay. No, he's gay.
He's full-on gay?
Full-on gay, which is what makes his marriage so sweet and bittersweet.
We actually don't know. He might be bi. We actually don't know. No bi erasure. Be careful. Yeah, basically there's a struggle going on between the 2 sons to see who's going to replace the Doge.
Whoever's going to replace the Doge needs Prince Benedict's blessing in this, and him and his son-in-law Marcos are on the outs because Benedict has a new wife, a young D'Angeline noblewoman whose family had been tragically slain during the Scaldi invasion, and she ran to Serenissima for protection, and she went to the Temple of Ashirat and begged sanctuary, and then he married her, and everybody kind of likes her because she's taken the veil of Ashirat, and she's young, and he's kind of older, but now they have a son, and he's decided he's going to leave all of his stuff to his new son, which really pissed off his daughter because in La Serenissima, she's not going to get anything. Women can't inherit, so the only things she could inherit were his D'Angeline properties, and now he's giving it all to the son. So there's like the sides of the family are butting heads.
Again, Carey writes politics with such a deft hand. All the motivations make so much sense. The politicking between them, it's really great. One thing I do want to mention, there's just not a great time to mention it, but going back to Phaedra and Jocelyn, is that I mentioned in the first book that I really liked the distance between the narrator and the characters and Phaedra, and how that made the world feel very real. That, I think, proves to be a bit of a double-edged sword, because I never really quite felt the conflict roiling in Phaedra for Jocelyn, and how their split in the relationship was really making her feel. It didn't ever feel very intense to me. Part of that is that Phaedra is actually just a remarkably practical character who like never really lets stuff get in her way. The only time you really get a feeling for how intense it is when her and Jocelyn are having a fight and she gets bratty, which is just like a great character trait of Phaedra's, is that she just gets kind of contrary and bratty. But I didn't feel it intensely, like in a fanfic way almost. And so I think that's a casualty of the more distance viewpoint.
And I will agree. Like, Will very much likes the distance viewpoint. I think it's part of the
Because
reason.
I want to be a super serious writer.
I think it's part of the reason that kept me the first time I read the first book from really getting invested in the characters. And I cared about the conflict between Jocelyn and Phaedra much more on this second read and was much more okay with it. The first time I was like, come on, guys. Stop your like bratty arguments. Like, get it together. And this time, and it's because I've read the whole series and I've read the second series, I care about these characters to an extent that the book itself doesn't have to necessarily put that work in. But as a first-time reader, it is a little bit just like you don't... In Axiom's End, I talk about that sweet, toothache, delicious angst that you get sometimes
that's what I'm
when
talking
reading.
about.
And like, it's just... it's warm and cuddly, but also when it's not, it's sad and you ache inside, and you don't get that. And you should. I felt it again much more the second time because I have already, like, the emotional investment is already there. I by reading all of these things, I've done the work.
I'm just so opposite of all of, like, both of you and all of this.
Which is good. This is why we need
the Phaedra to our Delanis. Go ahead, young apprentice.
One of you said that, like, she's just a really practical character. And she makes decisions based on, like, she can't really control what the fuck is going on in Jocelyn's mind. She's talking to him. It doesn't really work. So she just kind of is like, okay, well, he'll either figure shit out or not. Like, I can't do anything. And, you know, I kind of respect that. Because
absolutely.
the whole, like, you know, what you were just saying of, like, oh, you need to, like, you know, whatever you said. Like,
pine intensely like a toothache.
That's the kind of thing that makes me want to just throw the book in a fire. So I really appreciate how downplayed this is.
Fair enough. Again, for me, it was never the missing the angst the first time I read it. I just, like, I knew they were going to end up together, and the petty arguments, like, and because, like, there is a essential core problem in their romance. Like, and it is... He is kind of a, like, number one, he never expected to be, yes, he's a huge prude. He never expected to sleep with anyone. And then once he did, he was like, okay, you're my person. I'm your person. We are good. That's it. And then Phaedra is essentially Phaedra. She got urges. Bitch gets horny a lot. Like, even when she doesn't want to be in weird situations. I literally just read a part in the third book where something horrific is happening and somebody mentions, like, silk ties and a whip, and Phaedra gets turned on, and the character's like, even now, Phaedra? And she's like, yeah. And it's like,
it is really funny.
It is so funny.
And relatable.
And
oh, no, I mean, no, I don't know. I don't get it.
That never happens. I've never been turned on in inappropriate moments. What are you talking about? They are essentially these two creatures. He is Kushiel's. She is Kushiel's and Nama's, and, like, the two doth not to go together well. So there is an essential, fundamental issue with their relationship.
And valid one. It's not like a dumb... It makes sense that this is a real challenge in their relationship.
That they have to deal
with. That's also why, like, I can appreciate the distancing, is because that's not a, oh, well, we're just arguing about something and we'll work it out if we talk to each other, communication. That's, like, literally, like, Phaedra's Phaedra, Jocelyn's Jocelyn. Jocelyn has to figure his shit out, because Phaedra is already, I mean, in my opinion, Phaedra's already made, like, as much of a compromise as she could. Like, for the year that they were in Montreux, you know, she wasn't doing anything. Like, they were trying to make it work and whatnot. But, like, it's, like, when you're, like, that kind of person, you just kind of need to work with it. And Jocelyn would either figure it out and be okay with it or not. Like,
To be fair, he's also not giving her any dick during this period. Like, they don't like have sex while they're together as a
well, because he's mad at her.
Yeah, exactly. But that's part of what gives the distance and makes Phaedra like frustratedly like there's hangry and then there's hangry, which is horny and angry. And Phaedra is kind of horny angry during a lot of their arguments, especially when he gets like firm with her. Like there's this point where like he kind of yells at her and like holds her fiercely, and she's like, oh. And he's like,
and then he gets mad and leaves.
And then he gets mad and he's like, God damn it, you're not supposed to get turned on by that.
Funny. And she talks about how the emotionality of their rift is actually kind of turning her on because that's Kushiel's start. And she's like,
sweet, sweet emotional pain also.
Which I think is actually kind of interesting because that is a real thing, and that some people are drawn to the drama and the Sturm and Angst of a relationship, like that center of a storm kind of a thing. And so it's kind of interesting to see that portrayed in such an honest way, where like a lot of books don't talk about how there is that attraction when there is the frisson and the conflict.
I don't think the distance is that big of an issue. I can see why for Will it would be. Like, again, for me, the first time I was just like, stop arguing. Mommy, Mom, Papa, stop.
Mom and Dad, stop fighting.
I love you. Get back together. And this time I knew where things were going, and I was like, they shall come out of this stronger. We're going to talk about in the end how Carey fumbles the resolution. Because Will made this point earlier, and I completely agree. She doesn't handle it as well as she could. She uses a little tiny bit of a cop-out, but we'll get there. Anyway, continuing on. Phaedra's exploring, and during this sequence, there's no sex. Like, she doesn't sleep with anyone.
Severius is like, can we do something? She's like, I'll think about it. And he's like, can we get married? And she's like, no, you weirdo.
Like, he's literally courting her for marriage, and she can't, like, outright reject him because she kind of needs his family's influence and stuff. So she's like, so in Terdange, I was a courtesan, but here you must woo me as if I was a woman. And he was like, Roger Dodger, I will do it. And it's great. It's hysterical. He shows up drunk one night singing on a gondola outside her window. And like someone across the like canal is like about to throw their chamber pot on him. And she's like, Severio, get the fuck out of here.
It was early in the morning and everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing at basically 3:00 in the morning? We're trying to sleep.
Sleep. Get the fuck out, Severio, you drunk ass Italian pain in the butt. I love Severio. He's great. She's doing her machinations and like her discovering, and there are these moments, and I'm not going to go into how the process of finding it, but there is this building sense of dread as she's putting things together. And you as a reader, because there's like, eventually they get into the little court. There's a moment where she like goes to the Temple of Ashirat. Priestess says something. She meets with the actual Doge. He says some stuff. She like meets with Ricciardo Stragazza, and his wife says, and like you're getting these little tiny bits of information, and Phaedra like is getting it, and the picture is like there, but she can't see it. There's something missing. She's looking at this puzzle. There was this astronomer guy who knew something, and they realized he knew something, and then he literally poisoned himself and killed himself.
Clarification. It was not astronomy.
Astrology, yes, there we go. An astrologist. But he literally murders himself, and they were like, holy shit, he was scared. He absolutely knew Melisande. Like, we're on the trail, we're figuring it out. And there's this dread, and I was worried because I knew what was coming, that it wouldn't be as big of a build-up for me the second time. And it was even worse because I'm watching Phaedra put the pieces together, and she's missing it, and I'm like, my guy, you're missing. It's right there. It's staring you. You've literally looked at it. Like, girl. And it was even worse. Will, as a first-time reader, how did the build-up leading to the reveal feel for you?
I did not feel that much dread. There is a sense of underlying dread, but like it was really nice just to get like, okay, the mystery is coming together. She's also a very good mystery writer in a lot of ways, because that's what a lot of
she really is.
The first third is like you're getting the pieces, everything kind of makes sense, and you're like, okay, what's going on? Part of the dread is that like I didn't quite understand, I think. my inability to remember names, it was, I think, a bit of an impediment to quite knowing what was going on and picking up on
I can
clues.
sympathize.
Because, like, when the reveal happened, I had to think, and I was like, oh, that's who that was this whole time. Like, I didn't know they existed. Like, it was an impediment a little bit, but there is, like, a really nice atmosphere to it.
There's this moment where, and I'm going to describe the reveal because it's absolutely fantastic. Again, we know Melisande is in La Serenissima. We've been trying to find her, figure out what her machinations and plans are. Phaedra and Jocelyn have a fight because they end up, like, angry sleeping together. Where, like, there's this moment and he's like, don't. And then Phaedra, like, leans in, and then he leans in, and then, like, it's rough, it's great, but not great, and it's angry, and he leaves in the morning. And then she has to go off. Like, she finally gets an invite to meet Prince Benedict, and she ends up taking Remy and Fortune with her to this invite. One of the things that they find out previously, which is important, is that all the guards who came from Toilemont have the same exact story for everything. And they say it was Percy de Somerville, or was it the Duke Longuevert? They say, like, this one guy was the person they saw with Persia Sharazzai.
Well, they accused Longuevert.
Yeah, they accused Longuevert, and for Phaedra, it's like, this is it. And then Fortune's like, no. Everyone had the same exact story. Like, that is really improbable. No one had a thing different. Something is shifty here. Why are all of these guards here? I don't buy it. And Phaedra's like, nah, you're right, bro. But anyway, they go to meet Prince Benedict, and then, like, they get there, and the wife of Prince Benedict holding her baby reveals herself, and it's Melisande. She's been there the whole fucking time. She's Prince Benedict's young Dongeline wife. She had a baby with him. Literally, Phaedra stared at her earlier when she was walking on a terrace, and you're just, like, caught off guard. It's right there. You're like, Melisande, you crafty ass bitch. And then Benedict, like, gives the order, and they go to kill them, except for Phaedra, because there's apparently this thing where if you kill Kushiel's chosen and you're D'Angeline, it's like 10,000 or like 5,000 years of pain under Kushiel. But if you're of Kushiel bloodline and you kill Kushiel's chosen,
or cause the death of
10,000 years. And so Melisande's not here for that. So she decides to keep her alive, but they kill Remy and Fortune. And it is so sad, because this is one of those times where Carey really, like, that distance doesn't impede your emotional response to what's happening.
It actually makes it better in certain ways, because she's just describing the events and it's gutting. I don't usually have very strong emotional reactions to the things I read, but I was so pissed. I was like, God damn it, Melisande. You were like the sexy, cool, evil one, and now you're just a bitch.
Remy and Fortune were just so good. Fortune was such a good boy, and they were so, like, defensive of Phaedra, and it was just, she did such a good job building up these characters. And idiot me, because I realized that while I can often, like, look at a book and critically predict what's going to happen, generally as a reader, when I'm reading for pleasure, which was the first time I read this, I don't do that. Again, I wasn't like, oh, enemies to lovers, prior to her and Jocelyn getting to Scaldia. Like, I was like, oh, this is her love interest. And, like, with Remy and like, if you think critically at all, here are these three characters from the last book that are being built up, real friends. You're like, someone's dying. One of these, or two of these bastards is gonna fucking... Nope, Maria was completely blindsided the first time she read this. Like, I'm the reader that authors often want, where, like, if I'm enjoying your book, I'm there for the ride. I will not question.
Yeah, it's funny, because I kind of had that too, in that I was like, even in the first book, I'm like, okay, they're gonna die. It's the whole dog thing. And then I was so fucking pissed when they died.
You're just so angry, and they were such good boys. And Phaedra's gutted about this. And they end up throwing her into this prison called La Dolorosa. You're first introduced to this when they're sailing to La Serenissima. It's a black isle of volcanic rock, and the wind howls. Like, there's a wailing. Sailors are super superstitious about it. The big goddess in La Serenissima is a Shirat, and a Shirat's son Ishmun was killed once, and that La Dolorosa is a personification of her grief of the death of her son. And then they decided to use it as a prison, because what else are you going to do with Howling Rock Place? And so she gets sent there. It sucks. It's a rough place.
I really love the way she wrote this, because it's just, you really sense Phaedra slowly kind of going a little bit mad, and there's a guy who's constantly yelling in a room nearby, and, like,
there's someone who's scratching.
The distance perspective was not a problem there. Like, you really do kind kind of feel it, and I really liked that bit of writing. It's very intense.
Eventually, like, Melisande comes to her at La Dolorosa and is like, how are you liking it? Not great, right? Well, your other option is you can come live. I have made a pleasure chamber dungeon / it's got books, nice things, a good bed, you'll get good food. And if you just agree to come be my pet and live with me, I will take you out of here. And Phaedra's like, oh no, that's hard. And there's this really great moment where Melisande is using her, like, the power she has over Phaedra against Phaedra, and she, like, kisses her, and Phaedra feels herself losing herself, so she bashes her head into the rock wall, and, like, she's bleeding, and Melisandre's like, oh shit, Phaedra. And it's in that moment that Phaedra realizes she actually cares about me. This is the only power I have over this woman, because she's got the rest. Melisande leaves, and she's like, next time I come, I will offer you again. And because once I leave La Serenissima and go back to claim my rightful place as ruler of Tedonge, the guards will probably fuck you up. Because right now they're not doing it because I tell them not to. So that's on you, bitch. And so Phaedra's sitting there, and she gets to a point where she's like, I'm going to go insane here. I'm going to lose myself. Rather be Melisandre's pet and maybe at some point figure out a way to get out of that situation. And she doesn't want to make the choice, but she kind of does. And then it is that night that, like, shit's going weird. She hears guards calling for stuff. Somebody comes in, checks if she's there, and she ends up, like, feminine wiling herself into knocking the guard out, stealing his keys, and she's, like, running through the halls dirty in her long gray dress. And it's the escape scene, and it's fantastic because someone is assaulting the keep.
And it should be mentioned that to get onto La Dolorosa, it's really dangerous. They have, like, a plank of wood that you just walk across for like 100 feet. Like, you could just fall in, and that's the only way in.
And they literally have people stationed to, if somebody's coming across that shouldn't, like, that doesn't have permission from the other side, to cut the rope. So you just fall in. And so, like, the fact that somebody somehow got across and nobody fucking noticed is insane. And she's like, she sits there for a moment and she's like, who would be harebrained enough to attempt to attack La Dolorosa almost single-handed? And at this point, you think single-handed, and she's like, God damn it, it's fucking Jocelyn, my baby boy. And you as a reader are like, yeah, it's fucking... Because at this point in the story, you are invested in Jocelyn as a fucking badass. Like, he's pretty, but he's gonna fuck you up. And, like, he's a dog with a bone. Jocelyn and his, like, battle prowess is just one of my favorite parts of and it's so good. Anyway,
it's great. It's fun.
So she escapes, she gets out, there's, like, battles happening. Eventually her and Jocelyn see each other, and you, like, are like, oh, my babies reunited. And then the book's like, nah, fuck you. There's a tussle, stuff happens, and Phaedra ends up falling into the fucking ocean off a cliff, and Jocelyn's just watching her.
She fucks up Jocelyn's rescue attempt. That's the thing. And that's how I texted it to Maria. Is like, he was doing great until she fell into the water. Like, she ruined his rescue.
Had she, and I bet you $10, had she just stayed in her cell?
Or not gotten into the tussle and stayed in the actual building instead of coming out?
And so it's one of those things where, like, it's all unintentional. Everyone was doing the best that they could with the information that they had at the time. But it does suck because, like, she sees Jocelyn see her as she falls over the edge. And there's literally a point where she's in the water, like, drowning. She's literally drowning. And she, like, comes up to the surface at one point and she sees a figure scaling the fucking cliffs, like reverse Princess Bride style. And you're just like, Jocelyn, my boy, you good? Like, oh, I love it so much. But anyway, she's drowning and she's legitimately kind of dying. And she's, like, praying to Eloa. She's praying to Kushiel, Nama. And then she's like, you know what? Ishira, I'm sorry. Your grief sucks. But also someone in your temple is betraying you. If you save me right now, I swear I will, like, get rid of the people fucking up your religion and the worship of you and being bad. I will clean out your temple. And Ishira's like, bet, and, like, whisks her way out of the ocean. And Phaedra's like, air. And then she's like, oh man, I'm thirsty. And she's just, like, floating on a thing. And she's very thirsty. And then a ship appears and she's like, please help me. And they take her out of the water. It's a pirate ship.
Which is part 2 of our
yes.
thing.
Oh no, Phaedra's a slave again.
So part 2 starts with, oh no, Phaedra's in prison in La Dolorosa. And then we also have, oh no, Phaedra's someone's hostage / slave again, which is when she gets on the pirate ship, because she's on the, and I'm going to be real quick about this part and just talk about, like, there's 2 major things that happen. Gina and I love pirate, Kazan Atrabiades. He is a Balkan pirate who's been given the Lacerissimans shit for years. Will does not love him. That's okay. He can be wrong.
Here's the thing.
I
liked him more when he was kind of dangerous and like you weren't quite sure what was going on with him, but he kind of becomes a little too cuddly, a little too fast for me. And also, I just didn't find him an interesting character for how long he's around. In general, I feel like this third of the story lasts too long. And I didn't really care what happened to him. Like I just don't really care. He's not a badly written character.
He's a very well-written character.
I don't dislike him. I just don't like him or love him. I'm just kind of like, can we get back to the plot a little bit? I don't care about this weird Quetzalcoatl thing that's going to eat him. Like, I just don't really care.
So to explain, so first off, yes, this part does last a little long. I love Kazan. I like the adventure, but I too, when I first read this, was like, La Serenissima, shit's happening. What is my baby boy Jocelyn thinks Fedra's dead, and you just go on this whole ass adventure. And there's always a point, like I said in the first, when we were doing plot revelations of how the books work, there's always a portion where like you're traveling and you're away from the homeland, and you have to get back to the main plot. So for the first book, it's the Scaldia portion. She's literally away. She knows that she needs to get back to home and save, but she has to get there. And in this, it's with Kazan trying to get back to La Serenissima.
I will argue, though, that it's more effective in the first book, because in the first book, the last third doesn't happen if the second third doesn't happen, and they aren't, there's a direct causation between the two. Whereas this one, you could go, yada, 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 they come back, and she now has the tools to fix the problem she had originally. And so it is more of like a circuitous route of like, this could kind of be, it's a little off topic to go here. Whereas in the first one builds on the other.
So it's fine. I love Kazan, and I like the adventure we go on with him. It is long. So basically what you find out is Kazan Atrabiades has a blood curse. There is this weird serpent creature that he accidentally killed his brother one time, and then his mom cursed him that if he ever returned to Epidoro, his city, his home, that the what's-its-face, I'm blanking on the name, but anyway, the what's-its-face would eat his soul. And so he can't go back, and so he has made a little home place in Dobrek. And basically, he gets Phaedra, and he's like, I shall ransom you. Good times. And he's like, but at my leisure. And she's like, no, I need to go. Either take me to Pterodon or take me back to, I need to go. And he's like, nah, fuck you. I do this when I want. And so they go to his home of Dobrek, and they're there, like, number one, Phaedra's kind of fucked up, so she has to heal, but they go to Dobrek, and that portion is the part that just took way too long for me. Like, it's not the interesting, because there's this thing that's going to happen called the Terminus, and then there's, like, getting back to Epidoro, and getting to La Serenissima, and both of those are really, like, interesting and fun. This part, not so much.
One thing I will say is that there is an interesting world building bit, and something I didn't mention either about this first third or in the second, or in the first book, is that she kind of like has to take an assignation essentially with him. The consent issues are kind of blurry and not great. But what it is she's like getting ready for it. And Phaedra always is very centered by having these assignations. And you get the sense that like she is really good at her job and she enjoys being good at her job. And it is not, there's a spiritual aspect to it, but it's almost just a meditative aspect to it. And I think that's a really interesting balance to hit with the sex worker, because it's usually either like she hates her job and she needs to get out, or some kind of vague like, oh, she likes her job because we're trying to be sex worker positive. But here you really get a sense that like this is her character.
This is her calling.
Yeah, this is her calling. Yeah.
Because she always says, like, I've never misjudged a patron's wants. Like, she immediately will know who a patron is. Like, she knows who's going to be a patron. And so there is this, like, mastery of her craft. And, like, she knows, like, when to use, like, the full Monty. Is this person going to be able to handle the full Monty, or are we going to go half Monty and warm them up? Like, she's got that. And so it's, the sex scene with Kazan Atrabiades feels less like a sex scene than someone who's really good at their job telling you how they were really good at their job. And that's a lot of Phaedra's sex scenes. And so you're right. It is, like, really masterful because it takes that, like, fetishized edge, because a lot of times, and we spoke about this last time, when BDSM is portrayed, it's like to fetishize it and like make it sexy Ooh.
Yeah, even by people who are into BDSM and think it's healthy, it's like their their libido takes over for the writing.
It's a scene.
Yeah, it's within a scene is I think how I explained it to Gina when my annoying co-host had left. And then and here it's really treated again, the way she thinks about it, like she draws calm from it. It reminds me of like when I'm doing one of my creative projects, honestly. Like that is kind of the vibe.
She's in the zone.
Mhm.
It's really interesting, but basically he gives her a choice that's not really much of a choice, which is I'll do this thing you want and send the letter and like send a fast ship to go, but I kind of want you to sleep with me. And she's like, not super happy about the choice, but she makes it because she needs to. And she's like, I slept with the Count de Morbon when I needed to get through Kushiel that once. Like, Nama's done it, I've done it. Bitch gonna do what a bitch gonna do. And he waits for her to get healed, and they kind of become friendly. But anyway, they do the sleepy thing. Eventually,
The sleepy.
the sleepy thing. The ship comes back, and they're like, "Yes, the Lady of Marsilicos will pay your." I'm speaking like this for a reason. It'll become clear in a second, guys. Don't worry. We will pay the bond or the ransom price you have offered. Here is 20 or however 15,000.
Half of it.
Here's half of it. But you have to bring her here by La Serenissima, which is where we're going to pick her up. Okay, thanks. We've kept 3 of your people as surety. And he's like, okay, let's go. We'll take you. Phaedra's like, yay, home. And then as she gets closer and the switch is about to happen, she's like, something feels really off. And like her and Kazan get on the other boat, and it's a Serenissima guy's there, and he's like, okay, now we kill her. And she's like, God damn it, you betrayed me, Kazan. And basically, the boat he sent to take the message to Marsilicos got intercepted by a Serenissima blockade. And they were like, and the problem is, Phaedra never told Kazan, and a huge portion of this book is learning like what you should and shouldn't tell people and how being too withholding can be your downfall, because she never tells Kazan that La Serenissima was her enemy and that Prince Benedict, because specifically they're like, Prince Benedict shall pay her ransom, and he's like, well, he's Dongeline, she's Dongeline, that should be just as good. Why would this be scary? But had she told him, like, nah, Prince Benedict's a fucking traitor, and he's the reason I was in La Dolorosa, this wouldn't have happened, because he didn't know. And so they try to kill Phaedra, and to his credit, he immediately is like, nah, I'm going to take the gold and Phaedra, and we're going to fuck off. They fight. He loses a couple of men.
Him and his country really hate the Serenissimans because they put some bad, like, trade laws on them and stuff like that. So, like, he's always down to kill some Serenissimans, which is very funny.
They grab Phaedra, they go off, and they end up trying to go to Epidoro. 3 of his ships get there, but his ship, as he gets closer, the snaky creature thing, it starts attacking him, and Phaedra's like, turn back, we can't do this, he's gonna die. So they turn back, and they end up getting washed up onto Crete. And while they're there, there's this whole, Crete has this thing called the Terminus, where if you do it, you get absolved of all of your blood guilt and, like, your blood curses, and he has a blood curse, and he's like, yeah, I want to do this. And Phaedra's like, no, we ain't got time for no blood curse removals. I gotta do stuff. And everybody there is like, Phaedra, you're here because you were sent here. Like, if you were gonna get political aid, you would have been sent somewhere else. You need to be here. So Kazan goes through the Terminus. While he's doing that, Phaedra decides that, like, she hears him screaming because she decides she wants to witness it.
The caveat for the Terminus is you're either cured of your blood curse or guilt, or you go insane.
Or and potentially, or die. So, like, not a lot of great options here. So she watches, like, they do the thing. Kazan's not allowed to eat. They send him into this cave. Screaming starts. Really intense screaming. And Phaedra's like, damn it, this is my fault. He's gonna die. I gotta go help him. And so she decides to go in. And so she basically goes through this whole, like, process. But, and it sucks. It's super bad. She's faced with any blood that's on her hands. Any innocent person that might have died because of a decision she made, even if it was one that she made in trying to help other people.
Apparently this whole time, and I didn't feel this very deeply for the character, but she's been carrying around this weight of guilt of the people, Remy and T. Philippe or whoever those two were dying. And even before that, I didn't feel like this portion super worked as character growth because I just didn't feel like it was set up correctly, but as a sequence on its own, it is really well written.
See, for me, I see it less as, like, the conclusion of a previous thing as something that gets sets up here and is going to get resolved in the 3rd book.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, because
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, Because it's not, Phaedra is pretty proud of the things she's done previously. Besides Remy and Fortune's death, she doesn't, but it is in this moment that she realizes that every decision she makes, whether intended or not, has cost lives. So she is suddenly given guilt. So, and it's the reverse.
Yeah, and later in the book, she's like, oh, I got to be careful because when I reach the terminus again, these people will be there for me.
And it's actually not the terminus. The terminus is the move that kills people.
Okay, I thought that wasn't the name of it.
No, it's not. When they land there, the place there has kind of got a similar name. Thetelos, the Thetelos!
It was a T and a D.
Yes, so during the Thetelos, Kazan is wiped clean of his blood guilt, so all the things that have been haunting him, he comes to terms with, and then the priestess blesses him, and it's wiped away. What this does is humble Phaedra into understanding that the decisions she makes cost lives. Whether she intended them or not, they do cost lives. And it's the first time that she's really come to terms with that, and it's something that she now, from this point on, carries with her.
Okay, that's why it wasn't set up correctly for me.
Yeah, because you were looking at it, you were looking at it as a resolution. It is the setup. And so she now carries this guilt, because every time someone might die in something, she's like, oh God, that's going to be on my conscience now, because she now is thinking about it. And it's the opposite of Melisande, who does not think about how the choices she makes and the things she sets up affect innocent people. And again, all of this is going to come to fruition in the third book. Don't you wait, we got you. So they do the Thetelos. Kazan is like happy now. He's chill.
He's Phaedra's #1 fan. He's like, let's do this. He's now cuddly bear.
Because he's like,
a Mediterranean pirate.
It erases his guilt. Like, it erases his feeling of guilt. So he's like born again.
He realizes now that asking Phaedra to sleep with him was really fucked up. She didn't really have a choice. He apologizes for that. But he also realizes he owes Phaedra. Like, the decisions she's made led him to this point, and he owes her a debt. So he's like, I'm gonna help you. I don't know how. I'm gonna help you get back to La Serenissima and deal with your shit. Because I owe you. They
have a really useless thing where they go to the Creedy government, and it's like 3 chapters of like, are they going to help us? No, they're not. We have to go. Like, that part could just be cut entirely. I don't know why it's there.
And all you needed was the head priestess to be like, we shall send a ship. Because basically what they get out of Creedy is that they're going to send a ship with a message to be taken to the Lady of Marsilikos. Because the path that they would take...
Rope bondage lady.
What? No,
oh,
not
isn't that
no,
is that not?
It's not rope bondage lady. It's the lady who is the head of the sea city of Marsilikos.
Okay, I thought it was a rope bondage lady.
Not rope bondage lady.
It's too bad. I like her. I just was trying to include her in more of the book.
She has to write the letter in a way that shall impart everything that she needs to know, but they also realize what happens if something happens to the letter. So they make the messenger memorize the message phonetically in Dongeline in the hopes that this is going to get where it needs to go. And that's the only important thing you need out of her visit to the government of Creedy. And again, you could have just had the priestess be like, all right, we shall send the message. It was an unnecessary aside. It doesn't add, like, it's interesting, but it's, you don't need it.
Basically what happens is they go to
Epiduro,
and his mom is really happy to see him. And then the leader of Epiduro is like, should we help you? Should we not? And then they end up helping. It's with kind of the understanding like, okay, the Dongelines are now going to be... Oh, we forgot to mention. Isandra the Corcel is doing a like tour into La Serenissima to just say hi to people and whatnot. And the idea is Melisande is going to assassinate her when she comes there, and then the king of the small court, again I'm forgetting his name,
Benedict,
is going to take over because he's like, I do not like that she married an Alban and now there's going to be a half-breed on the throne. This is not cool, which is something that I would have liked to see more of in this book later on, in terms of there being a divide in Dongelin society between people who are like more okay with it and people who aren't. Take a drink, people. A Song of Ice and Fire's backstory, there's this whole thing about the Blackfire rebellions where the king married a kind of exotic woman, Dornish, and like it split their society, which also had to do with like second sons versus first sons, and like a more conservative branch of them versus a more liberal. It's very interesting. I wish that had been played on more, but it isn't.
There's the understanding that like some of the Dongelines don't like that she married an Alban, but he also like helped save the realm. So they're dealing with it. It is something that comes up because you deal with her children in the next trilogy, and they deal with like some, like, you don't look right ism. In Epidaura, yeah, the Bond decides to help them because he is sending a tribute ship for the new Doge being crowned. He's like, I have no idea how to help you without risking my nation. And then his wife, who is like a tiny ass bit character, but she's just so great because she comes up and she's like, hide her in the tribute ship. Hide her in the tribute. And they're like, what? And she's like, when my family escaped, we had false bottoms in our trunks.
I actually really loved her as a character because... Take a drink again, guys. In A Song of Ice and Fire,
this video's gonna get you fucked up if you're taking actual alcoholic shots. Let's go.
There's this whole thing. It's a series very interested in femininity in a lot of ways in terms of what kind of power do they have in a patriarchal society and soft power versus hard power. And so in this book, so far, the Angelan society is very egalitarian. Women can own stuff. They are treated pretty much the same. It's very egalitarian. And so you see women in places of power. And then in this area, you see that like women, there is a very strict patriarchy, but like the leader, he really values his wife's opinion. She stands next to him and she does have a smart thing to say. So it's interesting to see like, no, it's not just if it's egalitarian, women can have power, but there's like a more soft power that they can wield in these other places. And I just think it's interesting to explore that a little bit. Yeah. And makes the world feel more real yet again.
The band's wife is fantastic. I love her. They decide they're going to hide Phaedra in a trunk of the tribute. At the bottom, it's got a false bottom. And I love this scene. I number one, I think it's a crazy, kooky idea. But they like get close enough and they hide Kazan's men who are all wanted like pirates in Serenissima. And they just put them in guards' clothes and are like, here's hoping nobody recognizes. And Phaedra has to like get into this false bottom and it's super claustrophobic. And ever since she drowned, she has a huge issue. Like it's and I like that she connected the ability to not breathe as a fear. But they end up getting into Serenissima no problem. And thus starts part 3. Heading towards 2 conclusions, because once again there's 2 fucking conclusions.
Yeah, I don't love that.
There's always 2. Like I'm just warning you.
Basically, they find Jocelyn, the Haibiru. Again, I want to keep saying Haibiru, the Yeshuite coroner. He is super happy to see her. He grabs her, they kiss. It's like, it's so cute because he doesn't do that a lot. He's not effusive in a lot of ways. And so for him to play into those romantic kind of tropes is really cute.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I love you, Phaedra. I thought you were dead. You can have as many patrons as you want. And this is the resolution to their earlier split. And me and Maria need to talk about how we don't love it. So the thing is, and because after this, he is pretty okay with her taking patrons and sleeping with other people and being into like the
whippy stuff. It tells you all you need to know.
The way that this conflict is resolved is he realizes the value she has in his life and he's not willing to give that up just based off of wanting to have her as his own and not understanding. I don't love this resolution because it feels a little too simplistic and it doesn't really solve, I think, in a lot of ways, the problems between them. If this was realistic, I could see that the problems would start to just generate again after the kind of feeling of like, now that I'm more secure in her not dying, I'm bothered by this again. I would have really liked to see more of a growth on Jocelyn's part to understand more her needs, even if he doesn't share them, and to respect that she also needs him, even without that.
And the part for me that was missing is what you were just saying, that she needs him, but that like she loves him and that her interactions with these other people do not change how she feels about him. They're 2 separate spheres, and that is just you never get it. And it happens because by the time you get to the 3rd book, they've been together for 10 years. There's a 10-year time period between the 2 books where they've dealt with this. They've come to an agreement. She only takes 3 patrons a year. And so like they both have compromised. Like she's not out here willy-nilly taking patrons, and he is like come to terms. And because there's even a point where in the 3rd book, he is okay. Like, he is friendly with one of her patrons. Like, he actually likes her as a person.
Which one?
Nicola. She's great. He likes her. But it happens off screen. That development happens off screen. And I think it would have been better to see it.
I feel like in general, it's a critique of mine I have of the book. And again, I adore the way Jacqueline Carey writes. I think she's really smart. But I feel like sometimes she poses these questions and then answers them, but doesn't quite do the work to in between there. And there's a certain lack of complexity. And This is another thing, which is that in the first book I said that the last third felt like it had too much bread and not too much plot bread and not enough character development and theme jelly to spread over it.
Mhm.
I kind of felt like that about this book in general. I don't love her decision to make a really large book. And there is an extent to which I think that is a decision. In our Red Shirts review, which I'm sure will probably come out before this, I talk about like how the writer does what he wants to really well, but I just wasn't. I just wanted a different premise essentially, or him to handle the premise in a different way, and that's not his intention. And it's hard to you can't really criticize a writer for writing what they want to write. She wants to write these really large books, but to me they feel a little empty, and it feels like sometimes we could have spent less time on the plot and like Kazan and learning new languages, and instead had more interactions of Jocelyn kind of being challenged and learning, and through that, and in general, that's I think
I agree.
a little bit of a problem.
I would have liked more Jocelyn. I would have liked more development with Jocelyn, because it's literally them fighting. He's gone for a huge chunk of the book, and then he comes back and they've resolved. And it's very cute. Like the shipper heart ships and does pitta patta. There's a really cute scene where like he is on a like little island with his. He's teaching some Yeshuite students how to fight in the Kushiel manner. And they're talking about like who's going to do watch, and he's like, I'll take first watch, and his students are like, well, you know, since you're Domjali and we know you guys like fuck, we did a thing, and they go to the tent and they put roses and there's candles, and they're like, Fedra's
and it's great because he's like looking at it and he just picks up Fedra and is like, we'll be back, and it's like it's such a non-him thing to do
because they're in the background like red faced but like Papa, did you like? And it's just, it's such a good scene. There's a moment in this that me and Will mentioned before we started recording where, like, the roses that they've strewn on the bed, there's thorns on them. So while he's making love to Fedra on the bed, she's also getting pricked in the back by the rose thorns.
Okay, no. Here's the thing. Basically, all of their problems could have been fixed if she had like a scratchy mattress. Essentially, apparently, that's all that needed to happen is he just needed to dick her down on a scratchy mattress.
The point is, like, this is as much of a middle ground as they're going to find. Again, had it been something where like he brought the roses and he specifically laid them out on the mattress for her, that's a symbol. That's symbolic of growth and understanding. But it's fine. They get there. I love them. They're one of my favorite like fictional couples. I adore them to like the moon and back. So they hatch a plan where they're like, okay, the Doge.
So we're in the third part now.
Yes, we're in once they hit Serenissima. So basically, they find out like they're trying to like, oh, okay, the ceremony to induct the new Doge is going to happen, and that's probably where they're going to kill Isandra. And so we got to like figure this out. And then one of the Yeshuite students is like, my grandmother was a priestess of that temple, and she told me about this weird tunnel that they had to do this thing. And they're like, okay, that's how we'll get in. And Phaedra concocts a plan, and you don't know what it is initially. And they just like, it's one of those things where they're like, and she told everyone their plan, and they were like, are you mad? And she's like, it's the best thing we got. And they're like, okay. And she calls Jocelyn out where he's like, Phaedra, this plan's insane. And she was like, yeah, who told me to sing a song to the master of the Straits? And he was like, I guess that was mine. Quite dumb. Point taken. So basically what they do is there's, in the warehouse district, there is a particular warehouse that has a tunnel connecting to the Temple of Ashirat that goes up to a balcony where the priestess appears, but she never walks down the stairs. So it's for dramatic effect. And she like says things dramatically and they make it sound like thunder. So they're going to get into the warehouse. They end up having to kill like a couple of the temple eunuchs. Poor temple eunuchs. They were just there doing their best. Phaedra's plan is, and I quote, she's going to lie on the floor of this balcony and she's going to pretend to be a Shirat and cause chaos during the ceremony.
Okay, the temple has like essentially acoustics to make the sound of a Shirat's voice. So it's not like she's just like, hey guys, I'm a Shirat. Like There is it makes a little bit more sense than that.
It does. But anyway, so she goes up there and she's settled down. Jocelyn and T. Philippe are waiting behind her for when shit gets real. And she's watching the investiture take place. And she's like, what moment am I gonna fuck this up? And she's waiting and she's waiting. And there's this point where the old Doge has to take his ring off and give it. Because what's supposed to happen is as long as you're the Doge, you are married to a Shirat for life. When you die, they pick a new one. And so how Ishirat's sanctuary / temple was fucked with was somebody was like, no, it turns out Ishirat says she doesn't want you as her husband anymore and she wants a new one. And that's not what Ishirat wanted. So Phaedra is sitting there waiting for this moment and they're doing all this stuff and the Marco Strigazza says stuff and the old Doge is going to take his ring off and she's like, now. And she's like, my love, why do you forsake me? And then dramatic effect. And immediately everybody's like, fuck, I don't know who, what the fuck was that? And some people are
the
smart.
Old Doge is like, give me that back. And
yeah. And he's
it.
like, nah, bitch, I am beloved by a Shirat, fuck you.
Ride or die.
and then what the reason she did this was not because she legitimately thought everybody was going to believe it, but for a moment it would show the division in there was people who were siding with Marco Strigazza, but who weren't necessarily completely loyal, who in this moment would change sides. And so it causes enough chaos that she eventually stands up and she's like, hi, I'm Phaedra No Delany de Montreve, and Benedict de la Coselle has started a coup. Marco Strigazza is with him. Fuck these guys. They're not doing nice stuff and they're gonna kill my queen. Battle ensues, people are going up the stairs, and then there's also these riots happening, and those and immediately Melisande is she gives a hand signal and they open the doors to let the rioters in. So it's just pandemonium.
What had happened before this is they had figured out that one of the Castelline guards, who again are supposed to be uncorruptible, actually is going to murder Isandra. He's there's some kind of weird, complicated family thing that, again, I can't remember names. And so he's going to draw his sword. He's going to do the terminus. He's going to cut his throat and throw a dagger. And Jocelyn is like, I'm more Castelline even than you. He throws a dagger to stop his dagger, and then they duel, and it's nothing anyone has ever seen because you've never seen two Castellines fight before. And silver's flashing back and forth, and it's great. And then Phaedra sees Melisande kind of oh, I'm running away a little.
And just really chill, cool as a cucumber. She's just
yeah.
And Phaedra's like, fuck you, nobody's looking at you. Phaedra goes to stop her, and she brings T. Philippe, but he gets lost in the crowd. So it's her and Melisande, having the standoff, and she's like, Phaedra, funny seeing you here. And Phaedra's got one of Jocelyn's daggers, and she's holding it in front of her, and Melisande's like, you can't use that. Just your plan has literally exploded in your face, bitch. Why are you so calm? You cocky ass bitch. I was like, Phaedra, just cut her. Just stab her. Please. She wouldn't expect it. It would give me such pleasure. You get if you want Melisande to crumble and learn that her heir.
That's one of my criticisms is
not in this book.
I didn't especially after she killed T. Philippe and the other ones.
T. Philippe is alive. Fortune and Remy.
I was no, I really wanted to see her more humbled. And there's a moment later I'll talk about that.
It happens more intensely than you could have ever hoped in the third book. It is, whew. Sucks to be her. So she's like, Phaedra, you can't hurt me. And she grabs Phaedra's hands and starts turning the dagger back at Phaedra, under her throat. And there's this great moment where T. Philippe ends up, because Phaedra's like, no, I can't kill you, but can you kill me? And Melisande's like, God damn it, I can't kill you either.
You're my favorite toy.
T. Philippe comes and Melisande just drops her hands, and Phaedra's just standing there holding a dagger to her own throat. And she's like, I'm going to drop that before anybody asks any questions about what just happened. So they end up capturing Melisande. Benedict, who had previously been a warrior, fights. He ends up dying there. Sandra's like, I'd like to take her home and I'd like to murder her to Melisande. And everyone's like, yes. And then she's like, actually, you can't touch me. I have sanctuary by the Temple of Asherah, and we're in the Temple of Asherah. And the priestesses are like, God damn it, she's right. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't take her. Like, she's under Ishirat's protection. And so Issandra's like, if you ever step a foot outside this fucking temple, I will nuke you, bitch. And everyone's so angry. And I remember Will texting me like, she gets away with, like, she gets nothing happens to her. She just, what? And yeah,
she gets to be there. And the thing is too, they're like, she had sent Imriel, her son, who's now the heir, off and like hidden, and he'll become a big thing in the next book and then in the trilogy after that. And like, Isan's like, okay, just show me where he is. And Melisandre's like, look, up until this point, this has been a game, but if you go after my son, this is serious business. And I really wanted somebody to be like, bitch, like, everybody's sons who died in this war weren't also a big deal.
Yep.
Like, I wanted somebody to confront her more with her narcissism. It's okay that she has that view, but I wanted somebody to push it on
it's
her.
gonna come so like exactly what you're asking for. Now, again, I understand wanting it in this book because I too was like, and because she sends her son away. And what sucks is Isandra realizes that a lot of the problems in the realm started from a blood feud. And Melisandre was able to do the things she was because of mistrust amongst people, and that blood feuds breed resentment that will cause issues for further generations. So what she wants to do is she wants to take Imriel and raise Imriel as her son to show that, like, yes, he is an heir to this throne. I'm going to love him. I'm not going to hold him accountable for the actions of his mother. And it's just really like noble goal. And you're like, props to you, Isandra. That's exactly the way you handle this situation. Yes, queen. And Melisandre's like, no, I shall not let you raise my son to hate me and poison him against me. Like, bitch, you literally have caused so many people to die. I think anyone on their own would be able to come to those conclusions. But anyway, so they're like, okay, now we have to go back to Terdonge. And then they're like, oh no, she sent out horses. Because the other thing we forgot to mention is there's someone in Terdonge who is part of Melisandre's coup, and it's this guy named Percy de Somerville.
Who smells like apples.
He smells like apples. He also wasn't a fan of Isandra marrying a non-pureblood Dongeline person, and that's how, and like, Melisandre was also able to blackmail him with something that I forgot what it was, but anyway. And he, once they're told that Isandra's dead, because whether Isandra died or not, when the bells tolled in the Temple of Ishirat, 4 horsemen on very fast horses on a relay would just go to Terdonge and be like, the queen's dead! And then Percy de Somerville was going to take the city because he's literally the head of the army. And so the horses go, and they try to stop him, and they can't. So they're like, oh, god damn it, we're going to go. Everyone's going to think I'm, like, Isandra's like, everyone's going to think I'm dead. It's basically civil war. Like, what are we going to do? And so they end up having, and this is like, so Climax 1 was dealing with the Temple of Ishirat and Melisandre. Welcome to the setup for Climax 2, which is getting back to Terdonge.
I really just wanted one climax.
And I also just don't love this one. I love the image of Isandra walking, just like
Saints, like, through the troops, and they all part for her, and the coup is undone when it's revealed that she is alive and she's not an imposter, which all happens. But it's like 100 pages of like, we already had the climax, we know this is going to work out. It's clever how they do it.
It's literally 2 hours, and I think if you have it not at 1.6 speed or 1.7, whatever I'm on, it's like closer to 3.5. So then they take the city, climax 2, everything is good. There's a moment where somebody tells her, like, she gets a it was in La Serenissima, where they're like, once you do the thing, you're gonna have 10 years of peace, and then shit's gonna get fucked up for you. Good luck. And she was like, Roger. Then there's a party. Isandra makes her, like, makes Jocelyn Queen's champion. She gives
her a thing where she can give her like the
companion star. She has to talk to Isandra like an equal,
which she hates.
She was such a good little night court baby. She's very differential to everyone, and she also gets to ask Isandra a boon at some point. And anything within Isandra's power to give, she has to do if Phaedra asks, which is great and is not used at this point. But what she does do is announce that Jocelyn is her consort. And because she says, she's talking to Jocelyn, and he's like, well, I guess before you do that, you should probably announce me as your consort, because he didn't ever want to do that before. And she's like, really? And then she's like, everyone, he's like literally right then and there, not separate occasions. She's like, this is my consort, Jocelyn. And it's just,
and Isandra's just like, yeah, it's about time. And then that's the end of the book.
That's the end of the book. Congratulations, we're done.
Overall, I did really like this book. Again, I think certain things about Carey's style are more apparent and weaken things a little bit, like we talked about. But As a whole, I really liked it. I'm really looking forward to the third book, especially because it's going to get super dark, which should be fun.
I mean, Will, you know how much I love dark, and yes, I mean, the third book is my favorite book. I will admit that, but I don't think I don't think you understand.
It's rough to get through. And here's the thing, there's a third that's rough to get through. The first third is fun, the last third is fun, but there's this middle third.
I still wouldn't say they're fun.
The last third is fun, definitely. But the first third is not necessarily like fun, but it's a good time, you know? It's not rough. And then there's just this rough ass terrible middle third.
And the middle third is more like, half the book.
I think that this one is the longest one of all.
It is.
So prepare yourself. I'm sorry in advance.
What'd you guys think of this book, though, as a whole? Any, closing thoughts?
For me, I enjoy this one because I enjoy the whole book and there's not a particular part that I significantly dislike more than the others. Sorry, first book. I enjoy this book more than others. I've heard people talk about the first third as if it's really slow and it's too long. But again, I think that build up to the reveal, especially on a second read, is absolutely fantastic and masterfully done. And despite the lack of a proper resolution to her and Jocelyn's issue, I'm here for them being happy babies who are only challenged from the outside and not themselves. So I'm happy to get to that resolution. I enjoyed this book better than the first book both times that I read it. Again, I would say the Scaldia portion in book one is still unbeatable, but this one has more parts that I'd say are closer to that level of enjoyment for me than the first one, which had one. And this I feel has two really, really strong sections.
And as a whole, I think it's just much tighter put together. Again, I don't love her decision to go with these super long plots, but they're her decisions, and it's very polished and good at what it does.
I disagree with you, Maria, because like I said, this book is good. I like it, but I also really don't really like it. Because it's so, you guys are, professional English literature, whatever. I'm not. And this book is just very... Boring isn't the right word. But it's just, everything is just, okay, we're doing this, and then we're doing this, then we're doing this, and then there's Pirate Kazan, and then we're doing this, and then there's doing this.
The first part of the first book was nothing but, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then...
Yeah, but it was interesting things that were happening. This is just she's being she's going after this thing, and then oh, there's a section about how the La Serenissima courtesans are treated horribly, actual prostitutes, and it's just terrible. And then there's there's specific things that I remember, which is that, in Kazan. And everything else is just yeah, things happened. It was a really long book. Things happened. The first book, I remember pretty much all of it. It was wonderful. The second book is just there. And then the third book is I remember pretty much everything. It was wonderful. So
I think it goes down to what you really want out of the book.
Yeah.
And for me and Maria, our ship our hearts go pitter patter. And we're really here also for the world building, I think. I mean, I am especially.
Oh, I love every time we interact with a new culture.
One of the things I love the most, and it's such a great cultural detail, is when they're in La Serenissima, there's
the flower ceremony.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
There's a fake battle between the men and the women of the city, where the women are on top of a tower and they throw hollow eggs with confetti at the men as they try to scale the ladder, and then get one of the women and profess their love. And it's just it's a really nice cultural detail
that feels very fleshed out, and and Will said, where it feels there's this whole iceberg of a culture, but you're getting this peek at this little sliver, but there's all this other stuff, and despite none of the other stuff getting explained, it gives you that. And I think it's one of those things where Will's right, where because it's an alternate history, it kind of lends itself to that. But I think there's something to be said when writers do develop really, 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 really rich histories, lore, culture, but they don't give you all of it because it wouldn't have a place. Because they could have had a whole thing, a historical diatribe telling you about...
She almost does no info dumping.
No.
In terms of the history of anything.
It's literally just that different strokes, what you're here for. Because this, for me, hits a lot of my sweet spots. Again, I would tighten up that third quite a bit. I'm excited. I've already started the third book. I'm really excited to see Will's reaction to it. Gina and I have discussed a lot of our thoughts about it before, and so it's going to be really interesting. Like, I'm interested because, like, with the pre-sale, I didn't realize how much that would hit you.
Yeah.
And how much it was going to, like, sit with you. And I don't know if this part will or not.
I have a weird thing where, like, I get really affected by depressing and dark things, but I also am really drawn to them. The
Yes.
way I think of it is almost like the way I've heard people describe triggers, almost like when they don't have a trigger warning, they start like something, and instead of just being like, oh, I don't want to read this, once they start it, they're unable to pull themselves out of reading it or viewing it or whatever the media is. And I almost feel that way about depressing and dark and horrible things, is like, once I start, I gotta finish it. I gotta watch the whole thing through. And so I am kind of curious because I know a little bit of what happens in the next book, just here and there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting, I think, to see how the distance stuff affects that.
If you have read this book, how did you feel about it compared to the first book? What are you interested in us interacting in our views for the third book?
We have a Patreon. Go join that if you're still here at this point in the video.
Please.
We do a book club where you pick a book and we live stream it and you talk with us.
Yeah, on Discord.
All right. Till next time.
Bye.